Neena Nair. I'm the Senior Vice President and HRD Head for 24/7 for India and the Americas. And it's really nice to be on a Facebook chat session with all of you. Um, the topic is really, really dear to my heart, and I hope that we'll have a great conversation today. Um, my tryst with diversity and inclusion actually began about 12 years ago. I remember I was sitting at my desk and one of our recruitment teammates came up to me quite flustered and she said, "Can you just come with me to the recruitment bay?" So I was wondering what happened, and I marched along with her and went to the recruitment bay. And she took me to a side, and there was this person wearing, I still remember, a mustard choli and a lovely red and mustard printed skirt, long hair, kajal in the eyes, looked at me, put the hand out and said, "Hi, I'm Rahul." And it was one of the most amazing moments for me because all I could see was a very beautiful girl. And so I looked at the recruitment teammate and I said, "Okay, so what is the issue?" And she said, "Can you just come into the next room with me?" And I said, "Sure." And I walked in with her and she said, "I don't know how to classify this person as a him or a her, because in those days we had just man, woman. We did not have anything else to actually classify people." And I said, "It doesn't really matter. For now, just put it as any of it and give the assessment and see whether the person clears the evaluation." And the person cleared the evaluation. Rahul cleared the evaluation and came on to training, went on to the floor. Then about 4 months later, I was walking the floor. I went to different programs, as was my rote. And I went to the program where Rahul was working, and I asked the manager, "I don't see Rahul today." And the manager looked at me and she said, "He left." And I said, "Why?" If there was a performance issue, we could have coached the person, we could have helped the person. And again, she looked at me and she said, "It wasn't a performance issue." And that's when really it was like a lightning bolt for me, because I realized while we had looked at diversity, that we were proudly looking at all the ways and bringing in different people, we had forgotten one key element, and that was inclusion. And that's when my journey with inclusion really began. And our journey as 24/7 with inclusion really began. And we started step by step, creating an inclusive environment. Because we realized that even if we were to bring in diverse people, whether they be from the LGBTQ community, whether they be women, whether they be special abilities, whether they be men, whether they be anybody at all, they had to be included. And that's when also began our motto: live without fear. Be yourself without fear. And with that, we built the entire inclusive program. Of course, we changed our policies. We made lots of changes to the maternity policy, to the leave policies. We brought in a lot of sensitization programs. There wasn't too much of use of these policies because at that time people were not really coming out. But then a lot of things changed around the 2015-2016 period. And then in 2018, on 6th September, the historic day when 377 was revoked, I remember we decided that we always celebrated Pride Day since 2015, but we decided that we do it in a really big, grand fashion, and we did that. I think everything kind of came to roost when after the function was over, I was standing waiting for the lift when a young boy came and stood next to me and he said, "Neena, I just wanted to tell you something." And I said, "Of course." And he said, "Today I feel I really belong to 24/7." And that was the day when all the effort that we had put into bringing inclusion into the organization kind of bore fruit. You know, one of the most interesting things about our country is that if you look at the ancient texts, the scriptures, the old texts, there has always been a complete acceptance of any kind of diversity. It was only in the 18th century, when the British came into India, that these differences began to be very, very visible and, made very clear, which is very strange, really, because we were never like that as a nation. And then in 2018, when this was revoked, we actually went back to being what we always were. In one of the texts, there is a very beautiful Sanskrit saying which says, Vikrati evam prakriti, which actually means that what seems unnatural is actually so natural. And that's how we live our credo for inclusion at 24/7. Of course, there are lots of measures. There's sensitization programs. We've started 124/7, where there is absolutely no difference in people, as long as they are professional, as long as they give their best for their customers, as long as they do what they have to do. They live by the code of conduct of the organization. They are engaged with the organization. They are completely close to the values and culture of the organization. They are 124/7. It doesn't matter what else they are. We've also started buddy groups, which made a lot of difference, because people felt that they were needed, that they were taken care of, even as they came in. And again, this is not specific to any group, it just happens for everybody who comes in to the organization. Of course, gender neutral policies have also been introduced, which is true for a lot of other organizations. But at 24/7, I think we do this with that one credo, as I told you, be yourself without fear. There are so many people from the LGBTQ community who have been a great inspiration for all of us at 24/7. It's wonderful to see young people coming out and speaking about the fundamental right to be a human being, the fundamental right to have dignity in both work and life. And all of this is actually brought into the organization as well, and woven into the fabric, so that people can be safe, can be happy, can be contented, and can work without any fear of any kind of stigma or any kind of discrimination. So what we want to do really, and what we are trying to do here, is create different kinds of diversity. So for example, diversity of thought is a very important diversity. We have to be able to encourage people to speak their mind, to be able to come up with different thoughts. Those could be disruptive thoughts, but that's fine, as long as they have wonderful thinking going on in their minds, and they're coming to us with a lot of thoughts, with ideas, with designs, with their opinions and so on. And we welcome that and encourage it through creating space for dialogues. We also have started supporting communities, the communities, especially the LGBTQ community. We actually are trying to reach out to as many people. We also took part in the first Pride recruitment program, and we were very happy to bring on board some of our teammates who come from the LGBTQ community, and they came in very happily and bravely and comfortably. And I must tell you that in 2019, we had another Rahul who came back, and we're very happy to see that absolute freedom with which everybody accepts and understands the person. I think that is the key. We have to be able to accept completely every single human being for what they are, for what they believe in, for what they come with, for their skills, for their interests, for their emotions and everything else. So our hope at 24/7 is that we will continue working on this till one day, and I hope that that's not going to be very far away. We will have a community of diverse people who will be one 24/7. I'm open to questions. So the first question I have is from Bindu, and she says that representation is a measure of diversity. How can companies ensure they are open to hiring employees irrespective of their orientation? I think that you're absolutely right. Representation is a measure of diversity, and we have to be able to see that. Of course, I don't think we should go by percentages, that this percentage of LGBT, this percentage of special abilities, this percentage of so and so. I don't think we need to do that. What we need to do is to be able to accept anybody based on skill. The representation will happen automatically, because when we look at skills, irrespective of all the other aspects, the representation, I think, will happen much more strongly than if we put percentages to it. Thank you, Tenzin. Tenzin says, it's good to see me. It's good to see you too, Tenzin. Let me see, what's the other question? All right, I'm still waiting for some questions. So while the questions come, there is, there is a very interesting set of people that I can talk about. There is a person from the LGBTQ community called Lakshmikant Tripathi. She has an NGO called Asitva, and she does a lot of work. And during the COVID times, she actually worked with Donate Cart to get food for the LGBTQ community, especially the transgender community, so that they were safe and that they were fed well and they were looked after. I think that is something that people who are from different communities are coming forward and helping irrespective of where people come from. So COVID saw some very, very humane actions where people just came together as communities to take care of each other. And I think that's what's the important thing. We've got to take care of each other. We don't put stigmas on people. We just look after them, we love them, and we care for them simply because they're human. So there's a question that has come from Sachin. How are you making sure everyone feels included at 247.ai? That's a good question, Sachin. I think it's, as I said, it's about making people understand that they have to be free. They have to they have to live without fear within the organization. The second is, as I told you, sensitization, sensitization, sensitization. People have to be made aware constantly what wonderful talent, how wonderful people of every orientation is. It doesn't matter who they are, as long as we look at them as human beings who have wonderful abilities. So we have to constantly educate, we have to constantly make aware, we have to constantly sensitize people. I think that's the most important thing. The second thing is, of course, our policies, processes, the way that we organize lives for our people in the organization have to be so friendly to everybody that they feel naturally included. They don't feel as if there's something that is there for somebody else, but it's not there for me. So everybody should be able to feel that through the various measures that we take. And again, I think one of the most important questions which Anup Kamath is bringing, I think, thank you for that question, is should companies be pushing for gender neutral washrooms even when their gender employees may not be receptive to the concept? I think gender neutral washrooms are a step to acceptance, complete acceptance, and I think it's important. At 24/7, we started slow. So what we first did was we created toilets and bathrooms for people who were from the LGBTQ community. We continue the awareness that at a point of time, these will give way to gender neutral. These will give way to common bathrooms. And I think that will become acceptable as more and more of our people become, it becomes commonplace. So yes, gender neutral bathrooms, toilets are absolutely essential, and that's the way to go. We're already building some. Our administrative team has already designed and started working on it, apart from the special bathrooms that have already been created. So it's a very good question, and absolutely the need in every organization. I'm sure many of them already do it. So there's a good question from Viplav. I'm getting such good questions. It's a pleasure hearing from you. While Viplav asks the question, while the leaders should drive the change towards an inclusive culture, what is the best way to encourage other employees to develop empathy? Uh, yes, leaders should drive it for absolutely, for the simple reason that if at the leadership level we are completely open to accepting people with skills, that's what's more important. Every other employee to the junior most employee should also accept whoever comes through the doors of 24/7 based on their skills, their ability to perform, their ability to work with the values and cultures of 24/7 and be part of one 24/7. That's the only thing that's important, irrespective of what their orientation may be. So we have to, again, as I said, educate and awareness. And as more and more people of the LGBTQ community actually come into 24/7 and come into organizations, when people start interacting with them, understanding them, learning from them, they will realize they are such beautiful human beings as everybody is. And there's so much to give and take from them and to them, that these barriers and this discrimination will slowly go. Please remember, a lot of the discrimination is also because of Section 377, right? People did not come out because of the criminalization of homosexuality. But now that all of that is going away, people are becoming a lot more open. So as we create greater avenues of awareness, greater avenues of education, slowly these barriers will also move on. And in fact, rather than slowly, faster, because already I see the change happening. And the most wonderful thing is the new generation, right? The millennials are so open. They're so open to most anything at all. You know, they like to hear things. They like to learn. They like to discuss and discourse. So I think they are the ones who will create the change for India. So Vivek Rao has a question. Do you still think people fear to accept who they are? I think yes. It may be because of family circumstances. Many of us are born into very traditional, very conservative families. There is a fear of being ostracized from within the family. For example, you may be a very, very popular nephew, popular son, popular brother, popular cousin. You don't want to spoil the status quo by going forward and saying, hey, I'm also, while I'm very popular with all of you, you love me a lot, I'm also gay. But that possibly stops them, because every human being wants to be accepted, and they feel that perhaps the acceptance levels will just drop, and therefore fear does exist, absolutely. But I think, as I said, more and more young people are coming out and saying, if you love me, you love me for what I am. It doesn't matter what I am, but you love me for what I am. And when they do that, I think we underestimate the love of our family and our friends. when we go out and tell them, 80% of the time, the acceptance is complete. Of course, there may be a little bit of surprise, but they will accept and they will say, okay, so here's another dimension of you. But I think that people have to get support. So if I'm afraid of going and stating it, maybe I want to talk to somebody. Maybe I want to take one person as a confidant and tell that person, look, this is what I am. And I'd like to share it with my family and friends, but I'm scared. So if you gather some support, then they will help you as well. No need to try and go alone. Don't try to do this alone. Get a buddy within the family, within your friends, your teachers, anybody who you trust. Get a buddy and say, help me open myself up to my family, friends, and everybody and the society so that I can be free. I hope that answers your question, Vivek. Yes, absolutely, Nags. Meritocracy matters. I think the most important thing is that we need people on merit. We are not going to be worried about what is the orientation of the person, what is the gender of the person, what is the ability of the person. If the person has the meritocracy, if the person has the skills that we need in the organization, then they're open, they're welcome with open arms. That's the only requirement. And of course, one more, to fit into the culture, the value systems of our organization, because we really live by our values. And if everybody who comes in gets completely oriented with the values of the organization, then they're the perfect candidates for 124/7. I have a question from Shrikant Rao. Hi, Nina. Considering many companies still harnessing stigma in hiring LGBTQ communities, why should we aim to ensure a certain percentage or number of our workforce is from that community? Well, you know what? I think it's a start. While I agree with you, I wouldn't like to look at it as percentages. But I think when we put a percentage, let's say 5%, 10%, 25%, 35%, we're actually beginning a revolution with it. We're starting to say that this is what we'll go for, and then we'll completely open it up, because the awareness and the education that goes side by side has to reach out to everybody so that the person who comes in is also comfortable. So I think organizations want to do this in phases so that they can take care of the comfort of the individual, little by little. So I think that's why the percentages are put. But I'm sure that at a point of time, percentages will no longer matter. It will be, as I said, based on meritocracy. It doesn't matter who you are, what you are, how you are, as long as you fit into the organization from a culture, values, and skills perspective. I have a question from Vetrivel Shivakeshan. What diversity, inclusion, and cultural competence training has supervisors at 247.ai had? Okay, so we've got a complete awareness and education program that we give to both our frontline and our frontline supervisors, our managers, our heads of programs. In fact, at the senior most levels, even at AVP, vice president level, we've conducted a complete awareness program. Having said that, I don't think doing a program just once will completely eliminate even a little bias, if there exists, from the minds of people. It has to be a constant education. And that's what we try and do. So we have regular calendared sessions. Also, we have lots of events. We just ran the entire Pride Week. Lots of people participated. I remember a supervisor, to your question, Vetrivel, he came up to me and he told me, I don't believe in this. So I said, but you're holding the Pride flag. And he said, yes, I'm holding the pride flag because I'm part of 124/7, but I don't necessarily believe in this. I said, that's fine. That's a start. If you can hold the flag, the pride flag, and walk with us because you believe in 24/7, then that's a start. And I think that is how slowly, with events, with seminars, with talks, with education, the supervisors also will start looking at their teammates completely without any bias of any kind. But you're right, it has to be a constant education, can't be a one-time thing only. I have another question from Ameya Kamath. Part of an inclusive culture is minimizing microaggressions. This has to go beyond just company policies, with every individual taking an active part of it. Ensuring this will probably be the most difficult. What are your thoughts? Well, I agree. If we have to make India into an inclusive country completely, then it has to go out of the company and on to the communities and to society. But I think it can start from the companies. Why not? If 15, 20, 30, 1 lakh, 2 lakh employees of organizations get more and more oriented towards complete acceptance, then when they go out into society, they can encourage, they can enable the acceptance amongst their own communities, their family members, friends, and the society that they deal with. The power of an individual to actually spread the good faith, spread the good messages to a larger number of people is huge. So we can certainly begin from companies, and then we can ask people to spread it in their own companies and societies as well. So I'm going to answer the next question, which is why. This is from Soumya Uberoy. While we have seen quite a positive change across industries in recruitment of the LGBT community, do you think there is some more push and motivation required by the giants in welcoming them? Oh, absolutely. And I think some of our own organizations have done a great job. For example, Godrej, even before the 2018 repealing of 377, Godrej was a trendsetter actually in accepting the LGBT community into their large fold. Infosys is another one. There's also been, there is RBA, very large programs, which very large companies which are working very, very diligently towards this. Okay, then next question is, cultivating an inclusive culture is comparatively easier in small organizations. How do we tackle that in the case of organizations with a large workforce? This question is from Sajisha. And Sajisha, I just answered it, right, that big organizations across the globe are actually taking this up very, very aggressively to see whether they can make sure that the LGBTQ community can be completely interwoven into the organization across the globe. So I think a lot of organizations are doing that and are trying their level best. Pratyush Singh has a question for me, which is, what would you say is the most difficult part of implementing a diversity program? I think that the most difficult part of implementing a diversity program is to get people to, it used to be, let me qualify my answer, it used to be before 2018, for people to actually come in bravely and openly without any fear. You know, they would still come in very diffidently. That was the most difficult. The doors are open, arms are open, we're waiting for people to come in, but people used to be a little hesitant. But now in the last 2, 3 years, we've seen that part of it completely reducing. And people are coming in. I think the other thing is that we've got to make sure that whatever we promise them, we give them. That's not the difficult part, but that is where we have to be consistent. I think that, we need to make sure as 124/7 that they truly believe they're part of 124/7. Again, it's not difficult, but we have to do that consistently without a break for every single individual who comes into the organization. And then there will be no difficulty at all. Thank you, Samiksha, for your kind words. Khushbu John has a question. What action is our company going to take against people who constantly mock people from LGBT who are trying hard to be one with us? 24/7.ai because of their skills. We have opened doors for them. It's important that we protect them and make them feel valued. I completely agree, Khushbu. You take the words out of my heart. It's absolutely essential. Guys, I don't want to paint a rosy picture here by saying that there will never be people who will not understand. There will be people, and I guess there are people who don't understand the beauty and the value of people who are different in their orientation. But I think education and awareness, and I think a little bit of support. And that's where the measures that we have, see, we have zero tolerance to discrimination, absolutely zero tolerance. And I think it's important for more and more people to come forward and tell us where discrimination is happening, because whatever we do, there is always one corner that our eyes are not there. And therefore, it's important for people to come forward and say that they have seen discrimination of any kind. And we should be able to then support them or help them or take the necessary actions that are required to give a very strong message to the organization and anyone that we will not tolerate discrimination of any kind. So I would encourage people to come forward and talk to me directly. All of us in at 24/7, we don't believe in cabins. We have open desks. We are available at all times. We are walking everywhere. Just walk up to us, tell us what you have seen, what you may have experienced yourself, or what you may have seen with somebody else. Come and talk to us. Because the more you talk, the more you come and tell us, the more you come and describe to us what pain somebody is suffering, we will never be able to completely eradicate discrimination from 24/7. And that is our single most important aim, to completely eradicate it. So please do come forward. Question from Dipayan is, we are hiring and it's wonderful. Can we reach proactively to the LGBT community and assess and hire them? Absolutely. Please go ahead. We have already, in fact, we had a meeting just 2 days ago where we said that let's look at all the communities that are there in Bangalore or even outside, especially now when we are looking at work from home, right? Work from home opens up new avenues because people who are not able to come to work in the office, it could be new moms, it could be people who have to look after their dependents, it could be veterans, it could be people from the LGBTQ who are not able to come to the office for whatever reasons, or people with special abilities, could be anybody. But as we bring in this whole work from home environment as well, it should become that much more easy to embrace and to invite people of all diversities to come and join 24/7, provided, of course, they have the skills. That's the most important thing. But yes, absolutely, let's reach out to the communities. Brigadier Sethi, Ranveer Sethi, thank you for joining, Brigadier Sethi. Missed the early part of your discourse. Why the emphasis on the LGBTQ community? Well, the emphasis is on diversity and inclusion, and we believe that inclusion cannot be complete without the LGBTQ community, and it happens to be the Pride Month, and that is why the focus is on LGBTQ. Bharani asked the question, how is 24/7 AI fighting the unconscious bias against the LGBTQ community? I think I've answered this question in many ways, Bharani. I think what we are doing is the measures that we are putting in, and as I said, zero tolerance for discrimination, the various awareness programs that we have put into place, the continuous education that happens, and also certain penalties that have to be put in place as part of our code of conduct, where very clearly we have stated that we will not tolerate discrimination. So I think the more we are able to tell people that this is not something we'll tolerate, at least what we will be able to do is explain to them, to get them to understand what it means to have an inclusive culture. Unconscious bias is also part of a societal makeup, right? But with the transformation that has happened since 2018, with the revoking of 377 and more people coming out, I think slowly the biases will reduce. And I have great hopes of the millennials, of the young people, of the youth of the country, because I think that they are really, really accepting. They are so much more accepting than perhaps my generation was. And the unconscious biases will slowly go away as well. Do diversity, this is a question from Praneeth Punacha, do diversity and inclusion help organization retain people longer? Oh, 100%, absolutely. If there was no diversity and inclusion, there would be no flavor. There would be absolutely no, people of the same kind. If we said that there would be only people of a certain kind coming into the organization, the diversity of thought, the diversity of imagination, creativity, knowledge sharing, none of that would be there. So diversity and inclusion creates an environment of learning, creates an environment of fun, creativity, innovation, imagination, all of which is absolutely essential for people to want to stay. So yes, diversity and inclusion is absolutely important. Thank you, Nirmala, very kind. I don't see any more questions, so I think we can close the session. Thank you very much. I loved your questions. And I hope that I've been able to respond and answer those questions to your satisfaction. Please go out into your communities, into the society that we live in, and spread this message of inclusion, of love and support of every human being, which is most important. And please do also share that everybody is absolutely welcome to come to 24/7, be part of 24/7, and be happy at 124/7. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Stay safe and take care of yourselves.